Once again, this is the KPFA video stream channel, continuing with another recording secretary for the Amalgamated Transit Union, this time 192 Alameda Contra Costa County Transit. We have Mr. Dave Lyons, and oh, by the way, I'm Safi Wa Nairobi. Let's hear from Dave.
Thanks, Safi. I want to say we, the members of ATU 192 at AC Transit proudly rejected another concession contract by a vote of 576 to 257. 3 years ago, we didn't get a chance to vote. 3 years ago, our local leadership, under direction from, as they said, the administration in Washington, which administration of that you can guess, said that we want to go to binding arbitration. And that the result of that was that the union made a proposal to AC Transit of a $21 million concession package over 3 years. And that wasn't good enough for AC Transit, so they imposed a contract for 3 weeks. The federal government said they couldn't impose a contract, that they had to go to arbitration, which was like, you know, heads you win, tails we lose. The result of that arbitration, because the arbitrator is told to look at the ability of the agency to pay. Well, AC Transit's revenue has been dropping for 30 years because the rich don't pay taxes anymore. So when you come up with a budget deficit, regardless of the reasons for the budget deficit, the arbitrator is going to rule in their favor. And that's exactly what they did. They took $40 million away from 1,500 members. And not only did they take the 653, which Chris talked about, but they took several work rules that had been in our contract for decades, including guaranteed triple pay if you do an extra piece of overtime. You used to get 3 hours paid. Been in there for 40 years, or longer than I know. We're the only area that does 13-hour assignments from the beginning of the day to the end. And when we were able to eliminate part-time work back in '99, the trade-off was we're going to get an extra straight time for that extra 45 minutes, from 12 hours and 15 minutes to 13 hours. Well, they took that away. For some of us that were working those kind of runs, that was $5,000 a year. That was almost as much as the medical. So you can see the level of collaboration on the part of the union was unheard of. And the members are still hurting and still angry about that. And that was reflected in that vote. It wasn't just the concession contract that we were facing this time, which is about a 4% cut in wages after you get through with inflation and medical costs. But despite the fact that the union said there were no other takeaways, they took away our dual medical coverage for couples that work at AC Transit. They took away our in-person sign-up. They took away attendance. They made it harder, easier for the bosses to fire people. And a lot of the things that they have done in these two contract proposals mirror exactly what the ruling class wants to do in public transit. And one of the ways they rule public transit in the Bay Area is through what the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. Metropolitan Transportation Commission is a group of appointed politicians and appointees, mainly from big business, that are trying now to implement privatization in public transit. That's their main goal at this point. And the MTC has tried to, for example, demand the elimination of all full-service holidays, which they used Columbus Day and Veterans Day as an example. Well, of course, they took Veterans Day away from it. They want to increase productivity by reducing absenteeism and reducing the extra board. So what does AC Transit and the union do? Agree to tighten up on absenteeism. A lot of these proposals Also, they mirror what's going on in the private industry. We represent workers in Vallejo Transit, which was run by MV Transportation and is now run by National Express. And these workers, where the top pay at AC Transit is $25.68 an hour, the top pay at Vallejo is about $21 an hour. The starting pay is about $13 an hour. They don't get spread pay. They can work 12 hours a day and just get paid what they work. They're not guaranteed 40 hours a week. They don't have a pension plan. They have a 401k. They have much less vacation, sick time than the major providers. And this is what they want for all of us. Recently, the MTC has come up with what's called a comprehensive operations analysis, in which they want to reroute a lot of the service that AC provides. Well, they're looking at what's the cost of this plan. They want to reroute a lot of the trans-based service to serve BART, because BART can't even carry all the passengers that want to ride. So they want to go to El Cerrito BART and Coliseum BART to pick up the overloads. But they want MV Transit to run it, because MV Transit is at the negotiating table with AC Transit Management. Right now, MV Transit runs the Dumbarton Bridge service. The cost of that service is $89 an hour with the profits of MV Transit. The cost of AC Transit service is $168 an hour. So you can see that their motivation is to make the workers pay so they can carry out their plans for transportation in the Bay Area. And some people say, well, you know, why are they doing all this? Is it just because the MTC bosses are greedy, or AC management who make $200,000 or $300,000 a year are greedy? Do we need to open up the books of AC Transit? I think not. I think that the problem of these cuts and attacks on our wages and working conditions go to the needs of capitalism and the needs for them to compete on an international level. And you see it, whether it's Athens, Greece, or Brazil, the attacks are the same. Higher fares, lower service, and attacks on the quality of life of workers. And part of that is that all these capitalists around the world are in competition with each other. I don't agree with Chris that the economy is getting better. It's getting worse. And I think that that's what, because if the economy was getting better, like in the 90s, we would get a little piece of the pie. But we're not. It's going the other way. And that's because these capitalists want to reduce the cost of labor. Right now, Ford workers start at $14 an hour. General Electric just brought refrigerator production back from China to Columbus, Ohio at $12 an hour. These are not living wages. But it's the only way that these companies can compete internationally is by slashing the wages and benefits of the workers. And they can't have public workers making $25 or $30 or $35 an hour while industrial workers make $12. And so they must smash us, and that's their goal. And in addition to that, they have another agenda, and that's world war. We can see there's wars right now going on that the United States is involved in, from Syria to Libya to Afghanistan and Iraq. That's their need. They need to fund that. And they're going to fund that by cutting the services and the wages and benefits of the working class. And that's their agenda. And what's interesting, now that the union leaders can talk all they want about the community and how hard we work and that we don't have bathrooms and so forth and so on. But when push comes to shove, when there's an opportunity to build a struggle and a fight to shut the Bay Area down, to take these profits and to threaten the profits of big business, they refuse to do it. And part of that reason you can find in AC Transit's own, ATU's own website. Because they have partners in that website, and included in that is a partnership called Americans for Transit. And within that, it's called Bosses for Buses, where the union is in league with employers to provide transit for its employers. But the studies that are funded to encourage that kind of development are funded by the Ford Foundation, by Sarah Lee, by Publishers Clearinghouse, you know, by George Soros, people who have plans to reduce the wages and working conditions of workers all around the world. And these are not our friends. So really when you look at stuff like that, you realize that it's no surprise that when it's a chance for the union leadership to build a solid strike in the Bay Area, that they back off. That they tell our union leadership to keep negotiating when the bosses have negotiated in good faith for months prior to the BART strike. And I think that what we discussed earlier today, we have another future than the continued degradation of workers and riders and public transit. And we have an alternative future of solidarity, of workers' power, and building the kind of world where workers run public transit, where we kick the bosses out the door and their transit management design and all these guys that their jobs is to try to cut more and draw more blood out of workers. We don't need that kind of a system. We need a system run by and for the workers, and a transit system by and for the workers. We know our jobs better than the bosses do. We know how to relate to our riders, and we don't need them. And we need to run a society for the workers, by the workers. Thank you.